Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along. Which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/zip. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. It finds them for you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/zip. That's ZipRecruiter.com/zip. ZipRecruiter.com/zip.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
Hey, warm from the low. Welcome to lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN family podcast. We've got an excellent podcast for you. As in segment number 2, we're going to be joined by one of our good friends, Jovan Alford. He does great work over at Total Sports Live. He also does a tremendous job over at Fansided. We're going to be chatting with him since he's based out there in the lovely city of Philadelphia about how the Phillies move forward without Zack Wheeler. We're going to take a look a little bit at the playoff picture in the National League and the American League. We're going to break down some games for Sunday as well. So we're going to have a good time with Jovan in the final segment. Going to get you guys picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Sunday as we touch them all. If you do have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you do have one of two ways we offer those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, letters CM, name does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. And the other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. While I did not get in any Twitter/X questions today, everything is powered by EdgeBoost. EdgeBoost is making sure that bettors are able to have access to their funds whenever and wherever they want. EdgeBoost makes sure that 100% of gambling transactions do get approved, and when you go to edgeboost.bet, put in that promo code of Greg, G-R-E-G. That'll get you a dollar for dollar match on your first deposit up to $25. Now let's take a look back at everything that we saw in baseball on Saturday. Try to find some trends and try to get to know these teams a little bit better.
Games from yesterday is Greg buzzing about. Here is the rowdy recap.
The Dodgers are now trailing the San Diego Padres in the NL West as the Padres get the job done by a count of 5-3. Padres only had 3 hits in this game, but Tyler Glasnow, he gives up 4 walks in 4 innings, gives up 3 runs along the way. Ben Casparis, a scoreless inning. Justin Robelski, he gives up 2 runs on his 1 hit, and for the LA Dodgers, the only man that has been able to score for the team in this series is Alex Freeland. Second straight day with a solo home run. Second straight day that the Dodgers had only 1 run. That's very interesting to say the least, as that came off of Jeremiah Estrada. Estrada gives up that solo home run in 2/3 of an inning of work. Nestor Cortez, 1 hit allowed in 6 scoreless innings. Jason Adams, scoreless inning, and then Andre Morejon, a 4-out save to be able to get the job done there. Your top over team in all of baseball is the Toronto Blue Jays, and they played another over as this game was overwhelming in the 12th inning, 7-6 the final, as this one was a little bit rough if you had the under, as this game was 1-0 going into the top of the 6th inning, and then from there, you saw barrage of scoring as Jose Barrios. Pretty solid start, 2 runs allowed in 6 1/3 innings for the Blue Jays. Louis Varland gives up a run in 2/3 of an inning. Sir Anthony Dominguez is scoreless inning, but then Jeff Hoffman, he gives up a run in the 9th inning, a Javier Sonja RBI single that led to extra innings. Mason Fluharty gives up an unearned run in 1/3 of an inning. Tommy Nance, 5 outs out of the bullpen, he gave up an unearned run along the way, and then Brandon Little, scoreless 12th inning to be able to get the job done. George Springer gets his 22nd home run of the season. That comes off of Tyler Phillips, who gives up that home run in his inning of work. Jansen Junk, not amazing, 5 2/3 innings. He lost 3 runs. Kate Gibson from there and out of the bullpen scores. Tyler Zuber, 2 scoreless innings. Ronnie Enriquez, an unearned run, give it up in extra innings. 1 inning pitched by him. And Calvin Fauché, he pitched the 11th and 12th innings. He gave up 2 unearned runs along the way. The Detroit Tigers find a way to polish off the Kansas City Royals, this by a count of 4-2 as Michael Wacha, not a dying Pac-Man voice, bad, not amazing. 3 runs allowed in 6 innings, ho-hum. He gives up a home run along the way to Spencer Torkelson, 27th home run season. Then Sammy Long to Andy Ibanez, his 4th home run of the season. Long gives up that home run in his inning work. Taylor Clark, a scoreless setting, and Bobby Witt Jr. does go deep off of Troy Melton, his 19th home run season. For Chris Paddock, 1 run allowed in 5 innings. Melton gives up that home run in his 4 outs out of the bullpen. Tyler Holton, Will Vest both give you 4 outs out of the bullpen as well. They go scoreless. And for the Phillies, who we're going to talk about a little bit later on with our good friend Jovan Alford, they do get the job done over the Washington Nationals. This by a count of 6-4 for Mitchell Parker. His rough run continues. 6 runs allowed in 5 innings. That is a 6.01 ERA, and he allowed a pair of bombs. Trey Turner down for what? 14th home run season. Omando Sosa, 7th home run season. Aaron Nola wasn't great in this one. 3 runs, 2 of which were earned. Given up in 6 innings. Better than his last start, but did allow a pair of home runs as Luis Garcia gets his 10th home run season. CJ Abrams his 17th. And for Abrams, he had 17 home runs. 14 of them have come on the road. For the Nationals bullpen, pretty solid. Orlando Rebalta, 2 scoreless innings. Connor Pilkington, a scoreless inning. And for the Phillies, you did have Matt Strahm give up a run in 2/3 of an inning, but you had David Robertson give you a scoreless inning. Orion Kirkering, and out of the bullpen scoreless, and Yohan Duran. He was able to end a scoreless inning. For the Red Sox, they just completely lambasted the New York Yankees. They're going to win this series. They have won each of the first 3 games in this series. 12-1 the final. If you had the under, the 7-run 9th inning of the Boston Red Sox is what doomed you here, as Garrett Crochet was great. 11 punch-outs, does give up a home run in his 7 innings of work. Giancarlo Stanton gets his 16th home run season. Greg Weiser, Justin Wilson combined for a scoreless inning. Jordan Hicks a scoreless inning, and for the Red Sox, pair of home runs. Trevor Story, it was story time. 20th chapter in his home run book this season, and for Carlos Cervantes, he goes deep for his 11th home run season. That comes out of Paul Blackburn, who in long relief. 7 runs allowed in 3 1/3 innings. Tim Hill, 5 outs out of the bullpen scoreless, and Will Bourne, he did not have it on the save. 5 runs allowed over the course of 4 innings. The Astros and the Orioles certainly had it 4 and over. The Astros get the job done by a count of 9-8 as there were 8 runs scored in the first inning in this one. This overcash in the second inning. Christian Javier, not long for this game. He gives up 5 runs, 3 of which were earned in 2 innings. Añadido dos Santos, a scoreless inning, and then you need a long relief from A.J. Bluba, who he comes into the game. He gives up 2 runs over the course of 4 innings, both via solo home runs, as you had Colton Cowser get his 11th home run season, and it was home run number 1 of the season, and I believe home run number 1 of the career of Jeremiah Jackson, so a congratulations to him. And for one, Mr. Dean Kramer, he gave up 3 home runs. He did make it through 5 innings, but gave up 7 runs, 6 of which were earned, as Carlos Correa took him to the 10th home run of the campaign. You had Victor Carantini get his 11th home run season, and then you had Jesus Sanchez, newly acquired from the Miami Marlins, 11th home run season, and Christian Walker a little bit later on off of Dietrich ends his 19th home run season. He ends up giving up 2 runs over the course of 2 innings, including that bomb. Yarmil Hidalgo was able to give you a scoreless setting along with Uncle Rico Garcia. And for the Houston Astros, you did have Brian King try to be the king in this one. He does give up a run in an inning, but the other Brian Abreu, scoreless setting to be all polished. That went off. For the Cleveland Guardians, the good news is they got 5 innings out of Logan Allen. Bad news is he gave up 9 runs along the way. The Rangers absolutely lambasted the Cleveland Guardians by a count of 10-0. Colby Allard gives up 1 run in 3 innings of long relief, but Logan Allen, 9 runs allowed in 5 innings, including 3 bombs. Adolis Garcia, 17th home run of the season. Josh Young is 12th, and how about a home run number 1 of the season for Cody Freeman? I think that he might have had a home run last season. Actually, he did not. So, first home run of his career as well. So, congratulations there. Jack Leiter, 10 punch-outs and 7 scoreless innings. Only allowed 2 hits. Luis Carvello and Jacob Webb from there. They both land a scoreless inning. So, nice, easy win on that front. And the Chicago White Sox bats have gotten hot all of a sudden. They take it to the Minnesota Twins by a count of 7-3. Mick Abel's first start as a Minnesota Twin did not go as planned. 6 runs allowed in 3 innings. Thomas Edge was solid in long relief. He goes 5 innings, allows 1 run. That 1 run was a solo home run as going deep for the White Sox, Luis Robert, 14th home run season, and Colson Montgomery is 12th. Davis Martin, he gives up 2 solo home runs in his 5 innings of work. Tyler Alexander, he gives up a solo home run in 3 innings. Jordan Leisure, he pitched a scoreless inning. As for the Twins, all 3 runs via solo home runs. Cody Clemens, 14th home run season. Matt Wallner, 17th, and Royce Lewis, he gets his 8th home run of the campaign for the Cincinnati Reds. Well, they were on to taking a loss at the hands of the Arizona Diamondbacks, this by a count of 10-1. Andrew Abbott has been doing for some regression, and we saw it here. 7 runs, 6 of which were earned, given up in 4 innings, including a pair of home runs. Brent Suter from there gives up 2 runs over the course of 2 innings, and Zachary Maxwell in his MLB debut, he gives up a solo home run over the course of 2 innings of work for the Reds. Not a lot doing at the plate, as for the Arizona Diamondbacks, they utilized Jalen Beeks as an opener, scoreless setting out of him. The Jake Woodford and Nabel Christmas piggybacked off of each other for 4 innings apiece. Woodford gives up a run, Christmas, no runs allowed, and for the Diamondbacks, trio bombs, Geraldo Perdomo, 14th home run season, Blaze Alexander, 5th home run season, and then Lourdes Gurriel. He was able to get home run number 18 of the campaign himself. For the Chicago Cubs, they go all over the LA Angels by a count of 12-1 as Cade Horton continues to be rock solid. He has given up, I believe, 1 run in his last 7 starts, 6 scoreless innings here. Ben Brown from there gives up a solo home run over the course of 3 innings. Joe Adell sets fire to the rain, 29th home run season. And for the Cubs, Reese McGuire gets a grand slam, his 7th home run of the campaign. And then Kyle Tucker, he had himself a night. How about 5 RBI and a pair of bombs as he goes deep for home runs number 20 and 21 of the campaign. Victor Maderos, he put 6 men on base and he allowed 6 runs in the course of 4 innings, so that was rough. Ryan Zephyrian, he goes for an inning out of the bullpen scoreless. Luis Garcia give you a pair of outs out of the bullpen scoreless, and then you were able to have 2 scoreless innings out of Oswald Peraza. That was a position player who came in for 2 scoreless innings after Carson Fulmer. He got 4 outs and he gave up 6 runs, all of which were earned. So that was not great to say the least. And for the Atlanta Braves, the debut of Cal Quantrill was not great. Then he fell to the New York Metropolitans. It's by a count of 9-2. Clay Holmes gives up 2 runs in 6 1/3 innings. Gregory Soto, pair of outs out of the bullpen scoreless, and then Tyler Rogers, Edwin Diaz, Paul Shaw face scoreless inning. For the Mets, a lot of home runs in this one. Pete Alonso, 29th home run season. Mark Vientos, pair of bombs, home runs 10 and 11 of the campaign. Jeff McNeil, pair of bombs, 11th and 12th home runs of the campaign. And Starling Marte of the Marte Parte, his 8th home run season. Quantrill only gives up 1 of those home runs. 3 runs allowed in 4 2/3 innings. Not great, wasn't terrible, but Dylan Lee then gave up 3 home runs, 4 runs in total in 2/3 of an inning. Tyler Kinley, 4 outs out of the bullpen squirrels. Aaron Bummer, 4 outs out of the bullpen squirrels. And Austin Don't Call Him Dewey Cox gives up a pair of solo home runs in his inning work. So Mets looking to be able to get back on track. And for the Brewers, they lose another game. They have now lost, I believe, 4 games this week. They fall to the San Francisco Giants, this by kind of 7-1 as Logan Webb, he had the Brewers in his web. He had 1 run allowed over the course of 6 innings, so his spidey sense was tingling. Spencer Bivens, 2 scoreless innings. Joey Lucchesi, a scoreless inning, and Casey Schmidt is able to come up with his 9th home run of the campaign. As for Freddie Peralta, he knocked himself out of the start early, but he wasn't bad. 5 scoreless innings. From there, Grant Anderson gives up 3 unearned runs in an inning. You had a pair of errors out there in the field. And then in long relief, Carlos Rodriguez, he does give up that home run to Schmidt. 4 runs in total over the course of 3 innings. So a little bit less than savory there for the Milwaukee Brewers, and this continues to be a less than savory season for the Colorado Rockies as they do fall to the Pittsburgh Pirates this by a count of 5-1. As for the Rockies, absolutely nothing doing on offense for helping out Kyle Freeland, who did not have a good start himself. 5 runs allowed over the course of 5 innings. He gives up a home run to Andrew McCutchen, 12th home run season, and Jared Trollo, his 4th home run of the campaign. From there, you did have Jeremiah Hill come in for a pair of pitches. He was able to keep that scoreless, so yay verily there. Nick Anderson, Luis Peralta, Victor Vodnik, all in the scoreless inning. And for the Rockies, their lone form of offense, Brenton Doyle in the 9th inning gets his 14th home run of the season off of You Don't Mess with the Johan Ramirez, who gives up that home run in his inning of work. Colin Nicholas, Connor Holderman both give you a scoreless inning, and then Harman Miladzinski. 5 punch-outs and 2 scoreless innings, and Mike Burrows, not a lot of length, but solid start, 4 scoreless innings. So you're certainly going to be taking that. And then the Seattle Mariners and the Athletics are wrapping up as I am doing this podcast. I do have to have this up by midnight Pacific, 3 o'clock a.m. Eastern. And currently we are in extra innings. The Athletics currently leading by kind of 2-1 in the bottom of the 10th inning. So we'll see if the Seattle Mariners are able to strike here. But Jeffrey Springs, a solid start. Solo home run allowed in 5 1/3 innings. That to Randy Arozarena, 24th home run season. George Kirby was solid. He gave up 1 run over the course of 6 innings. Gabe Spire, Edward Bizardo, Andres Munoz, all on the scoreless inning. And then Caleb Ferguson gives up an unearned run in the 10th inning. As of right now, you've had Michael Kelly and Sean Newcomb give you 4 outs out of the bullpen scoreless. Tyler Ferguson was able to pitch a scoreless 9th inning. Right now trying to keep things on in the 10th inning. So we'll see if we're able to get you a final there. If not, I do apologize since I do have to have this up by midnight Pacific, 3 o'clock a.m. Eastern. But that said, if you're taking a look at what we're all getting trend-wise in Major League Baseball, this A's versus Seattle Mariners game should go under the total. And over the last 7 days of Major League Baseball, that would send us to 33 unders of 52 overs. Things have gotten very overwhelming. Over 61% of games going over the total. Moneyline favorites, they are 53 and 40. We're not going to simulate that Seattle Mariners game, so that's TBD. That's 57% in the last 7 days, and overall for the season, hitting at about 57%. 1,093 and 827 are favorites on the money line, and overall for the season, the under rate still at 51.2%, 949 unders to 904 overs. But if you look at the last 30 days in Major League Baseball, how about the favorites hitting at just 55.7% at 219 and 174 on the money line, and the under rate being at about 46.5%, 199 overs to 174 unders. So that's what we're seeing in baseball right now, and that's what we're all getting trend-wise in this great game. Coming up next, how about if we talk with Jovan Alford? He does great work over at Total Sports Live, and he also does a great job over at Fansided. We'll talk some Phillies, we'll talk some Sunday baseball, and so much more right here on the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now a part of the Beats and Family Podcast.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
We're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the Beats and Family Podcast. Always great to be joined by this man, as Jovan Alford is doing such a tremendous job this time of year. Taking a look at all that we're getting in baseball. He does a great job over at Fansided. He does great work over at Total Sports Live as well. He's based out there in the great state of Pennsylvania, so very much looking at what we're all getting out of the Philadelphia Phillies right now. Certainly he's getting set for some football with the Eagles and so much more, and you're able to follow him on the old Twitter/X at his first name, Jovan, Jovan, the number 10 altogether. And Jovan, it's great to get you aboard. Thank you.
Hey, I'm glad to be back on with you, Greg. It's been a minute, but what a time to be doing it. Baseball, we're in the home stretch. Playoffs are around the corner. Playoff races getting tighter. Division races. You couldn't ask for anything better. So excited to be on with you today.
Yep, it is great to have you on. And unfortunately, just before starting this podcast, we did get a little bit of bad news on the Philly side of things. You sort of figured that Zack Wheeler was going to be out for quite some time. It is confirmed that he's going to be out for quite some time, deal with the blood clots. Now he's going to have to undergo surgery. So his season is done. And how does that affect the Philadelphia Phillies moving forward? Because I don't think that they're really in danger of missing the playoffs or anything like that. But certainly with regards to how deep they can go in the playoffs, I think that that's more the concern.
Yeah, no, definitely. And like you said, you know, the whole Zack Wheeler situation with the blood clots and everything, like I said, we found out projected the TOS surgery. You're probably looking at be out to 6 to 8 months. And you're glad that they found out sooner rather than later with this type of injury for him just off the diamond. But about this Phillies team, like you said, it's more about what are they going to do now going forward and deep into the playoffs, and how do you set up your playoff rotation. I think now Christopher Sanchez he moves into that ace role as that number one guy for this starting staff, and the way he's pitched this season, I think, you know, he's ready for this moment. He's 11-4 this year, 2.46 ERA in 25 starts, 2.05 ERA, you know, this month, 14 straight starts overall with at least 6 innings pitched. This guy's been reliable every time the Phillies needed him and need him this season. He's just come out and just been electric with all the mix of pitches that he can do. And he's just always cool on the mound. Never looks like he's flustered. So I think having him, leading this staff will be just phenomenal. And then after that, you're hoping that Aaron Nola, he just made his first start last week against the Nationals. You hope that he can round in the form. Before the injury, he was, not pitching well. So you're hoping that he can round in the form these last few weeks of the season, because you're going to need him. You're going to need Ranger Suarez, who's kind of been up and down-ish a little bit, especially this month. But when it's time for Ranger to show up, especially in the playoffs, and Phillies fans are well aware this. Playoff Ranger is a different Ranger Suarez. He's locked in, ready to go. So I think if you have those three guys, especially the last two, really locked in this last part of the regular season going into the playoffs, you should be fine, because you have a guy in Walker you can use, and he's done a tremendous job this season, I think, being asked to be a starter, but also being a reliever. And a guy like Jesus Luzardo, when he's not walking guys, when he's on his A game, when he's pitching with conviction, he's also a solid starter. So losing Wills is definitely a hurt piece, because you're talking about a NL Cy Young candidate, contender, but you do have Sanchez, and you hope that now your veterans in Nola and Suarez, who do have that playoff experience, they can, help you make that deep postseason run.
And I'm so glad that you mentioned Jesus Luzardo there as well, because he's been one of the most fascinating pitchers in all of baseball. Through the first 2 months of the season, it looked like he was going to be a fringe Cy Young candidate. Over the last 2 months, he's been posting up an ERA well above a 5. What do we make out of Jesus Luzardo? Because if you look at the advanced numbers, he should be doing for a lot of positivity on that ERA, but it just feels like it's been one thing or another, whether it be tipping pitches or something like that, that has really held him back recently.
Yeah, no, I was definitely on the Jesus Luzardo sleeper Cy Young candidate earlier in the season. I was like, oh man, like this guy, obviously the last year, I think with the Marlins, he was hurt. I think he only pitched like 60 innings. So for him, he's definitely exceeded double times over. And I think things kind of went south, as you remember, against that May 31st start against the Brewers, where he absolutely got shelled, 12 earned runs, and things kind of started to go out of whack for him a little bit. Fast forward into August, seems like he's starting to round in the form. Like I said, anytime when Jesus Luzardo can limit the walks and just pitch with conviction in the strike zone, and not, like you said, not doing the tipping pitches, which I think he's doing a better job of that, and especially out of the stretch, I think that was the issue too. Just things were just not clicking for him when he was in the stretch. Last 4 starts just this month, he's gone at least 6 innings, which is pretty impressive. And then in the last start in July, 7 innings against the White Sox. I know people will say, well, it's the Chicago White Sox, right? But you got to start somewhere to get back on track. So I think with the way Luzardo is pitching is great. You look at what he did against the Mariners in his last start, 12 strikeouts and 6 innings pitched against a Mariners team that's competing for a playoff spot. You love to see it. So like you said, he's been kind of up and down. Like I said, looked like Cy Young, fumbled, in the middle months of the summer, now starting to pick him back up and looking like the guy earlier in the season, which again, if you're a Phillies fan, you're going to need that, because without Wills, you're going to need that collective back into that rotation to continue to pitch well. Luzardo continue to pitch well, and even Taijuan Walker continue to give 5-6 innings of quality starts, because that will help not burn this bullpen out, which has been pitching phenomenal too for the last several weeks as well.
Yep, absolutely. And I also do think that helping out the Philadelphia Phillies cause has been the New York Mets being the New York Mets recently. It's Jovan Alford, who does great work over at Total Sports Live, along Fansided, joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show. And I actually do like the Mets for Sunday, with it being David Peterson against Bryce Elder, who's looked very, very elderly recently. But how do you take a look at this Mets team overall? Because it does feel like the series against the Braves is starting to get them back online. And over the last week or so, it's been better for them. But the way that they toilet bowled, I think losing 13 out of 15 games really hurt them. And that has allowed the Philadelphia Phillies, even with their issues, to be able to maintain and actually grow this lead over the last few weeks.
Yeah, the Mets were in serious trouble, and things looked like they were seriously going off the tracks, which, like you said, it helps the Phillies benefit. It also benefited the Cincinnati Reds at the same time. Like, they've been able to kind of pick up ground for that last, wild card spot. As for the Mets, is just obviously, you shouldn't have lost that series to the Guardians. You had a couple of close losses, which you shouldn't have had. And then that Brewers series, we know how just dominant the Brewers have been. They could have easily won that series. 2 out of those 3 games, they only lost by 1 run. So you look at how a lot of these losses have come for them. It's just your bullpen imploded, offense not doing their job. And like you said, it seems like they're handling business against this Braves team, which you're supposed to do with how poorly the Braves have been and how inconsistent they've been. Now they just have to pick up. They have to start beating the teams they have to beat. Coming up this week, they have a huge series against the Phillies, which is probably going to determine what happens the rest of this way for this division. But then after that, you have 4 against, the Miami Marlins to kind of wrap up this month. Again, Marlins, frisky team, almost like how the Nats are to the Phillies, very thorn on the side. And the Marlins have been playing well recently, but you got to handle business against those teams. You got to take at least 3 out of 4 in that series, because after that, the road gets a little tougher. Detroit, Cincinnati, Phillies, Rangers, all in September to start off. So you got to try to pick up these wins, pick up these series wins by any means possible right now, because the Cincinnati Reds are sitting right there in that 4th spot in a wild card race.
Yep, certainly, and that is going to be a really fun race to take a look at moving forward. And I'm so glad that you were mentioning the Cincinnati Reds, because they are going to be an underdog on Sunday against the Arizona Diamondbacks, and I'm not sure if they should be. Brady Singer has looked much better recently for the Reds. 3 runs or fewer allowed in 14 out of his last 17 starts, going against a guy in Zach Allen that, 2 years ago when the Diamondbacks made the World Series, he was one of the best pitchers in all of baseball. Now over a 5 ERA. How do you look at the Reds both in this game on Sunday and moving forward? Because I feel like they've been a little bit of an undervalued team over the last few months.
Yeah, they definitely have been, and it's almost like people forgot about them because I guess because how the NL wildcard races kind of was shaping out for a good period of time, where it's like, okay, we know it's going to be one of these three teams, the Mets or the Padres, whatever, and the Reds kind of just like flew under the radar, but they picked up a lot of steam, especially after that Speedway series. They swept the Cubs, which I thought was huge. They kind of figured things out against the Pirates, which they're supposed to do. Took care of business against the Phillies, which, again, that was a huge series win for them. And right now, you got to think against the Angels, they did their job. And now you're going against the Diamondback squad, where, like you said, again, Diamondbacks kind of in the playoff race, but still not. The Reds are an interesting team because they have a lot of good pitching. Like, I love their starting rotation, right? I love Hunter Green, getting him back is huge. Andrew Abbott has been just outstanding this year. I mean, you just look at his numbers. He's been great. Like you said, Brady Singer has been phenomenal. That trade, has worked out for him as well. And then offensively, they have a lot of guys, right? I mean, you still got Ellie, you still got the likes of Spencer Steer and, and those guys offensively. And then you add a guy like Brian Hayes, who somehow, some way has starting to found the power stroke a little bit, which I don't remember none of us seeing in Pittsburgh, getting him. And I know it wasn't a huge splash third base probably move that a lot of Reds fans were thinking, especially with the names that were out there. You see Eugenio Suarez move, you see, Ryan McMahon move, and you're like, oh, Brian Hayes, like he's not really the type of needle mover that you would think. But right now he's hitting 266 in 20 games, with the Reds. And that's the highest batting average he's had since his rookie year in 2020 with the Pirates. So this team, if they got the rotation to really make things very interesting and really give a lot of teams, scary. And I'm surprised that the number is sitting the way it is. Because like you even mentioned about Gallen, while he's pitched better in August, he still has struggled a lot this season. I think he's given up 20 to 20 plus home runs this season. So he's going to give up that long ball, and it's going to be up to the Reds if they can capitalize off of it.
Yep, with Gallen over 1.5 home runs allowed per 9 innings. So that has been very much less than tremendous for them, to say the least. And just looking league-wide, we've got ourselves a lot of fun playoff races to be able to dive in on. And I think that this is going to be a great game on Sunday Night Baseball between the Red Sox and the Yankees, where the Yankees are looking to avoid the sweep. The Boston Red Sox got the job done once again on Saturday. And right now, the Red Sox are about a plus 135 to a plus 140 underdog, total of 8.5, with it being Dustin May and Carlos Rodon. And I want to get your thoughts here because for the Yankees, I think that there's a good chance that they avoid the sweep. But I mean, even if they do avoid the sweep, there has to be a lot of concern for the Yankees. And if you're the Red Sox, even if you lose the game on Sunday, have to be feeling pretty good about the way that this series went.
Oh yeah, if you're a Red Sox fan or even a player on the Red Sox, you got to be ecstatic. I mean, the possibility of taking possibility of getting a 4-game sweep over your rivals
on the road.
On the road, right. On the road in the Bronx. You've been playing just outstanding baseball in the second half, which has kind of propelled you, to be firmly in this playoff race. Because let us not forget, Red Sox fans are not happy with Alex Cora earlier this season and was pretty much wanting that man, out of a job potentially. So the fact that they've been able to turn it around, I mean, you got to be excited. And on the other end for the Yankees, things are just continuing to go on the downturn, which is not good, I think, if you're Aaron Boone, because you might be the first one out if this team, continues to fall short, and you got to get this win against Dustin. No whiffs, ands, ifs, or buts. You got to get this win. You cannot leave out of here getting swept in 4 games. It almost resets you to set the tone, because you look at the Yankee schedule the rest of the way. They have the Nationals coming to Yankee Stadium, and then they go on the road to face the White Sox. To be honest with you, Greg, if they don't sweep both of these series, then there might be serious conversations to be had. Like, if you're a Yankees fan, you need this team to go out and handle business in each one of those games. I would say sweep both of those series to kind of put you at ease right now.
Yep, absolutely. It's been a great series for the Boston Red Sox. I do think that it might be a little bit rough for Dustin May being on the mound, but ever since getting Boston, he has looked a whole heck of a lot better as well. So perhaps they can get the job done here. So that'll be a relatively fun one to be diving in on, as we do have Jovan Alford joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show. And we've got ourselves a lot of intrigue in general on the board for Sunday. We've got all 30 teams in action. We've got ourselves some games involving teams that are not going to be making the playoffs. We've got ourselves a Kansas City Royals team that's trying to be able to claw their way into the playoffs. We've got Dodgers versus Padres. Anything in particular that you're looking at for Sunday, and perhaps a better two that you're going to be looking at?
Yeah, no, I have 2 games in particular that I'm looking forward to on this Sunday slate. And for me, Astros or Orioles. And I know people probably saying, why Astros and Orioles, given how the Orioles have just been just this year. But I think we have an intriguing pitching matchup here between Trevor Rogers and Spencer Aggregetti. I'm really interested to see what Rogers' K prop is going to be for this game, but also his outs prop, because he's actually quietly had a good season this year. And I don't think people realize 6-2, 1.41 ERA, 1.29 ERA in August. Has thrown at least 6 innings in 8 straight starts and has at least 6 Ks and 6 out of 8 in those starts. So I'm interested to see what the market's going to be around those numbers, because like I said, he's just been a phenomenal, this season for a year that's kind of been lost for the Orioles. And on the other end, for the Astros side, what are you going to get from Spencer Aggregetti? He's not been good since he's come off the IL. 0-3. Astros are 0-3 in those games that he's pitched since coming off the IL. 5 ER. He has given up at least 5 earned runs in 2 out of those last 3 starts. 7.90 ERA and at least 9 walks in his last 2. Can he kind of get back on track? Because you're going to kind of need something from him, given that you're still waiting on the return of Luis Garcia, who's still, I think, in AAA or still on rehab. So you want to see if he can kind of turn the ship around, because they're also in a tight playoff race, as we mentioned, with the Seattle Mariners right now. So I'm interested in that game, specifically looking for props around both Rodgers and maybe Aggregetti, depending on what his walks prop is going to be in that one. And then a very interesting one I'm looking at that I don't think a lot of people probably focusing on, because it's the Rockies and the Pirates. But I'm interested in seeing what is going to be our K prop for McCade Brown, who's making his major league debut against Paul Skeens. No random pitcher. He's going against Paul Skeens. I'm interested to see what his K prop is. He's just recently pitched in AA Hartford, so it's going to be fun to see what the market sets. If anybody that knows me, I love doing the whole let's play the hitter or pitcher on his debut to see, if we can find some value there. So I'll be interested to see what the market is as this young guy gets his, major league debut against a Pirates team they have some guys, they have some hitters, O'Neill, Cruz, Brian Reynolds, guys of those ilk, but he's kind of pitched well in AA this year. I think he's had at least 2.47 ERA across 20 starts in the minors this year between High A Spokane and also AA Hartford. So very interested to see what a McCade Brown K prop is looking like for the finale between the Rockies and the Pirates.
And for the Rockies, boy, could they use any sort of positivity whatsoever.
Yes.
We'll say the last 2 weeks have actually been not totally awful for them, but it's been a relatively awful season for them. But it's always a good time when you're aboard, Jovan. You do such a tremendous job looking at this great game of baseball. I know you're getting set for some football as well and so much more. So all the good people at home know it's all on tap for you, and how people can follow along on social media and other platforms.
For sure, and always appreciate you having me on, Greg. Yeah, like I said, football season starts, so I can't wait for that. TotalSportsLive.com. Check out the content there. Like you said, Twitter at Jovan10. I think the same thing on Blue Sky. I think it's Jovan10.bsky, whatever, on Blue Sky. And I was most recently on the Dad's Bets Baseball
with
podcast.
Adam Rosenberg, yeah.
Yes, our friend Adam Rosenberg and DJ. So I was over there talking about some prospects that were traded at the deadline and guys that could be called up in September. So definitely, if people want to check that out as well, they definitely can too. But again, Greg, always appreciate you, having me on, talking about the game, breaking these props down, and just looking at the game, in totality.
Absolutely. And Adam, a friend of this podcast as well, and so is Jovan. He does such an excellent job taking a look at this great game of baseball, and every single time he joins me, he lends such great insight. So big thanks to Jovan for joining me on the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. And coming up next, it is that time of the podcast. They give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Sunday as we touch them all.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Always great to be joined by Jovan Alford, who does great work over at Total Sports Live. He does great work over at Fansided and so much more, based out there in the lovely state of Pennsylvania, taking a look at this great game of baseball. Every single time he joins me, he lends such great insights, and he did so once again today. So big thanks to Jovan for joining me in the last segment. Now it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Sunday as we touch them all.
If a game is listed on the betting board, Greg has a side and a total on it, so it is time to touch them all.
Do note that as per usual, any changes that are made to these plays will be listed up on my Twitter/X feed at @GUnit_81, and we are going to be going in Las Vegas rotation order. This is where we go with the National League games first, then the American League games, any interleague games. Those are going to be at the bottom. That'll keep things all nice, neat, clean, and easy. So how about if we start things off with a game that is off the board? This is 9:01, 9:02 on the card. The Rockies are on the road against the Pittsburgh Pirates. Paul Skeens is on the bump for the Pirates, and the reason why this game is off the board is that the Rockies have yet to name a starter, so that's why this game is off the board. At most places, I'm seeing an initial FanDuel opener with the Pirates minus 146 on the run line, minus 330 on the money line, plus 265 on the Rockies, total of 8, over is minus 115, under is minus 105. I have right now just penciled in bullpen game for the Rockies. This was supposed to be Austin Gomber's time through the rotation, and they released Austin Gomber, so that's why he's not starting this game, but I think that you're probably going to get a mix and match piecemeal game. I think that you might get like McCade Brown. I think that they trotted up there from the minor leagues, and that as a result as being on the Pirates run line. I set this at a minus 341 on the money line, minus 162 on the run line, and if you do indeed get McCade Brown, because that's right now the guy that I am seeing up on ESPN as most likely being able to get like a bulk amount of innings or something like that. Not savory to say the least. Like, he had some success at the AA level. It was supposed to go up a 3.14 ERA at AA, but he's never gotten past AA. This is a very young pitcher that is very, very raw. He pitched for Indiana back in the day in terms of college baseball, so I mean, there's a little bit of something there, but no question about it. Jumping all the way from the AA level to the major league level, that's not great, and it's backed up by a bullpen that's currently 29th in the big leagues in terms of ERA. As, I mean, man, for the Colorado Rockies, other than Victor Vodnik, you just don't have a ton in this bullpen. Vodnik and Jimmy Erget have been able to give you a sub-4 ERA. Nick Anderson has been awful. Wamhia, about a 4 ERA along Jaden Hill. These guys have not been completely terrible, but on Al-Shavili, Victor Agnos, who's currently on the injury list, so many guys have just not been able to do their part, and for the Colorado Rockies, they just stand no chance against Paul Skeens. Recognize that they did get to him at Coors Field, but this is a Rockies team that is dead last in the big leagues in terms of runs per game and on-base percentage on the road. Now, Hunter Goodman does have 15 home runs on the road with about a 270 average. That's pretty rock solid, but a lot of these guys have been so productive for you at home. They're hitting below a 220 when they're on the road. Mickey Moniak, Jordan Beck, Orlando Arcia, Ezekiel Tovar, all these guys are hitting a 220 or lower when they're away from home. Michael Tiglia and Brenton Doyle both hitting below a $160. That's just not helping out your cause. And for the Pittsburgh Pirates, overall this season, this team is in the bottom two in the big leagues in terms of runs per game themselves. They finally are getting a little bit more power as Tommy Pham is up to 7 home runs. You've only got 3 guys on the roster above 7 home runs. O'Neal Cruz, who's right now dealing with injury, Brian Reynolds, Andrew McCutcheon, and even with Cruz out there, it's been a case where he and so many others have just not been able to move the line and get on bases. He, Lovar Piguero, Emmanuel Valdez, Henry Davis, Jared Trollo, Alexander Canario, all hitting a 220 or lower for this unit, so that has been a little bit less than tremendous, but for the Pirates, it's been a relatively solid bullpen for this team. You've had quite a few guys step up, be able to give you a sub-350 ERA whenever he's been out there. Chase Shogurt, as he's been dealing with injury, Isaac Madsen, Dennis Santana, these guys have been solid. David Benhar gets traded away, but you know what, you've been able to get some good mix and match guys. Looks like Bubba Chandler might be a promising long guy for the team, and then obviously Paul Skeens has been masterful. A little bit over 10 strikeouts per 9 innings. He is allowing about 0.5 to 0.6 home runs per 9 innings. Again, he had a little bit of issue when he was over at Coors Field. Now that he's at home, he should be able to go out there just completely dominate this game. As for Paul Skeens, when he has been at home this far this season, he has been at his best 181 ERA, 5 home runs allowed in Pittsburgh in 74 2/3 innings, and I just don't think that you're going to have the Rockies do their part with this total. Semi-total 7.2. I like the under and the Pirates on the run line. 903, 904 on the card. The Mets are on the road against the Atlanta Braves. Bryce Elder hopes an outlook elderly for the Braves, and you've got Mr. David Peterson, great name, out of the bump for the Mets. The Mets are between minus 116 to minus 122 favorites. Even money to plus 105 is that number on the Braves. Sign is total over and under, both at minus 110. Recognize that the Mets have had some issues recently, but I am very willing to lay it with them. I set this at a minus 153. For Bryce Elder, get a load of this last 11 start run. In his last 11 starts, 54 runs allowed in 54 1/3 innings, having allowed at least 4 runs in 7 of those starts. Good grief. Like, he has been absolutely terrible for this team. 6.29 ERA for the season, 1.5 home runs, 3.5 walks per 9 innings. He's giving up as many runs as he's pitching innings over the last 2 months. It's just not great. And David Peterson has done a great job keeping the ball in the yard. 3.18 ERA, goes up to about like a 3.43 on the road, but he needs a long 0.6 home runs per 9 innings. Strikeout stuff isn't great. He's at about 7.7 strikeouts per 9 innings, a little bit over 3 walks per 9, but he's been able to do a part for the team. And when it comes to the Atlanta Braves, they've actually been a top 5 unit in terms of runs per game since the beginning of the second half of the season, since the All-Star break. So do have to give a little bit of credit there. You get back up Ronald Acuna Jr., guy that's giving you well above a 400 base, double-figure amount of homers. That obviously helps out the cause. Marcell Ozuna, Matt Olson, both of these guys in that neighborhood about a 365 on base. They've been able to combine for 39 home runs, so you do like that. Michael Harris is up to 16 home runs since hitting at 255. No on-base percentage whatsoever, but has been able to about a 265 this season. Then you've got Nacho Alvarez, along with Nick Allen and Vidal Brujan, all heading for 0 home runs this far this season. Drake Baldwin has been pretty solid. He's been able to give the 13 home runs. He and Sean Murphy have both been able to give you some power, but Murphy has not really hit for any average whatsoever at a 204, so that's been a little bit of an issue for the Braves. This team has been an average to below average bullpen. The top guys have honestly been relatively solid for the team. Desbel Hernandez, Dylan Lee have both been able to give you a sub-3 ERA. Dylan Dodd, the Dodd father, is right around about a 355, but Aaron Bummer, Raciel Iglesias, both above a 385. It was so bad for Aniel De Los Santos that they had to DFA him, so that was a little bit less than tremendous. And for the New York Mets, Ryan Helsley, ever since he got to town, has been absolutely awful. Gregory Soto has honestly been relatively solid. I don't know how long that's going to last. I have no faith whatsoever in Gregory Soto, but you know what? You've been able to get some solid innings out of him, so yay, verily there, along Tyler Rogers. Reed Garrett is giving you a sub-3.5 ERA, and obviously Edwin Diaz. Sometimes it gets adventurous, but he's been solid. But you've got a quartet of guys at the top. Brandon Nimmo, Francisco Lindor, Juan Soto, Pete Alonso, over at least 20 home runs. For Soto, about a 385 on base. Alonso's been able to give you about a 345 on base. So I think these guys have been able to do a pretty solid job. And then Starling Marte is starting to move the line, ending at 280. Mark Vientos has had a rough season, 280 on base with 9 home runs. But Brett Baty's up to 15 home runs as well. So I do think that for the Mets, they do a nice job of getting to Bryce Elder and get the job done. Did sub I told 9.1. You're at the 9. I'm in on the over, and I'm going to be in on the Mets money line. 9-5, 9-6 on the card. It is the Washington Nationals on the road against the Philadelphia Phillies. Ranger Suarez is on the bump for the Phils, and Jake Irvin goes for Washington. Washington is a underdog of any between plus 213 to a plus 230. Minus 250 to minus 268 is that number on the Phillies, and the total is 9.5. The under is minus 115. Over is minus 105, and if you're looking at that initial FanDuel opener, right now you'd be laying about a minus 137 on the run line of the Philadelphia Phillies. It's starting to get to be a little bit rich for my blood. I'd be willing to go up to a minus 135 here on the run line, which I think that when it's all said and done, we should be able to get a minus 135. Right now, that initial FanDuel opener has the Phillies at a minus 295, which is much bigger than the market number. So when it's all said and done, should be able to get more like a minus 135 run line. For Jake Irvin, it's just been a less than amazing season for him, to say the least. For Mr. Jake Irvin, he's given up a lot of the deep ball. The command is starting to go on him a little bit. 3.1 walks, 1.8 home runs per 9 innings, all while getting only about 6 strikeouts per 9 innings. So that's been a big issue. 5.30 ERA, 5.50 fielding dependent, and he has now given up at least 4 runs in each out of his last 4 starts while getting 3 strikeouts or fewer in every one of them, all while giving up a grand total of 6 home runs in those last 4 starts. So yeah, you're having some issues there. And Ranger Suarez is starting to give up a little bit more contact than what you'd like. A 3.25 ERA goes through to a 3.23 fielding dependent. Really doesn't give up the deep ball. 0.8 home runs allowed per 9 innings. It has been a little bit of a rough run for him, as he has now given up a grand total of 16 runs over the course of his last 4 starts. But now he gets to go up against Washington Nationals team that is all sorts of banged up. Now I will say for the Nationals, upper half of the big leagues in terms of runs per game away from them, they've actually been much worse with their offense at home. CJ Abrams, for example, 16 home runs this far this season, but all but 3 of them have actually come on the road. They did let go of Nathaniel Lowe, but you've got James Wood giving you good wood. 26 home runs, 355 on base, albeit the power numbers have gone down ever since the All-Star break. Josh Bell hitting over a 270 since the beginning of the month of July. He's up to 16 home runs. They do have a young guy in Dallin Lyle who's been able to about a 265. Not a lot of power outside of this, so now they're getting back Paul DeYoung. 6 home runs and 140 at-bats, hitting about a 245. That's been relatively okay. When it's not been okay, it's been this Washington Nationals bullpen. Right now, they are dead sinking last in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. Like, just so many guys that are not giving you anything whatsoever. Clayton Beater, Shinkuzi Ogasawa, Jackson Rutledge, Jose Ferrer, Connor Pilkington, Orlando Rebalta, all at a 4.29 ERA or higher. I mean, Cole Henry has probably been the only guy in this bullpen to be able to give you a sub-355 ERA, other than PJ Poulin, who's only thrown 10 innings this far this season. So that's a big, giant issue. And it's not like the Philadelphia Phillies have an amazing bullpen. Even Jovan Duran had some issues a little bit earlier in the series, but he's been able to give you a sub-275 ERA. You've been able to get Matt Strom along with Ryan Kirkring to be able to give you some good innings recently. Both of these guys below a 305 ERA, but Joe Ross has been an issue. Jordan Romano has been all sorts of awful. And for the Philadelphia Phillies, you have Kyle Schwarber, who's been one of the hottest players on the face of planet Earth. 45 bombs, 375 on base. He has been amazing, and plenty of guys are able to move the line, get on base for this team. JT Realmuto, Alec Bohm are both hitting above a 275. Umando Sosa, Brandon Marsh, Nick Castellanos between a 255 to 265. And you've got Bryce Harper up to 21 home runs as well. So do you think that the Phillies should be able to go out there and dominate this game? As long as I can get a minus 135 or better, I'm going to be in on that run line of the Phils, and did make my total a 9.2 here at the 9.5. I don't think that the Nationals get to Suarez, so I'm in on the under. 9-7, 9-8 on the betting board. It is the Milwaukee Brewers, and they're going to be playing the San Francisco Giants. We do know that for the Giants, it is going to be Robbie Ray saying yip it hooray to another start. Right now for the Milwaukee Brewers, it's all to be determined, so that's why this game is off the board. We should be getting Brandon Woodruff in this spot, and if we do indeed get Brandon Woodruff, even though the bookmakers are not hanging any numbers, I've got my handicap. With the Brewers, I set them at a minus 148 on the money line. Would need at least a plus 148 to take a shot on the run line. Need at least a plus 149 to look at the Giants' money line and set a total of a 7.4. So a 7 or less, I'm in on the over 7.5 or higher to the under. If you don't get Brandon Woodruff and you were to get a bullpen game, I will probably set the Brewers at a very, very slight favorite, as the Brewers bullpen has been very good. Abner Uribe, Grant Anderson, Nick Mears, Trevor McGill. You've got a whole bunch of mix and match guys who have been able to give you a sub 325 ERA deal. Hall is able to give you some good length as well. So even if you don't get Woodruff, I would be still favoring the Brewers just a little bit. But obviously Brandon Woodruff has been pretty amazing in his 8 starts thus far this season, 247 ERA. He's getting 11.3 strikeouts per 9 innings. So these guys have been very rock solid there, and he is giving up 1.4 home runs per 9 innings, but now goes up against the San Francisco Giants team that is in the bottom 8 in the big leagues in terms of runs per game. I will say this for San Francisco, the offense has been a whole lot better away from home rather than at home. Oracle Park is one of the most pitcher-friendly ballparks that you're going to find in all baseball for the Giants right now, 3.55 runs per game at home. That is at the bottom of the National League. Meanwhile, closer to about 4.5 runs per game away from home. That's average to slightly above average in the big leagues. Willie Adames is up to 22 home runs, but over the last 35 days, he's hitting right around at 200, and the Brewers do him very, very well. Jung-Ho Lee has been able to hit about a 260 along with Eloy Ramos. Ramos is up to 15 home runs. Matt Chapman lines on the injured list. Now it's Casey Schmidt, who has been able to give you 8 home runs at about 215 at-bats, needing to step up, but the catcher spot and Tyler Fitzgerald hitting at 220 or lower has been just absolutely awful for this team. Luis Matos has been just a disaster as well, so a lot of guys towards the bottom of the lineup that just have not been able to produce. Now for the Giants, this is a top 3 team in terms of bullpen ERA. You've got quite a few guys still in this bullpen that are pretty solid. Jose Buto, Randy Rodriguez being your main 2 guys, being able to supply a sub 355 ERA this season. Matt Gage has been solid as well, but you do trade away Tyler Rogers, Camilo Udval at the trade deadline, and Eric Miller is right now dealing with an injury, and when it comes to this Brewers lineup, they're a top 4 team in terms of runs per game, despite the fact that in terms of home runs on a per at-bat basis, they're in the bottom half of the big leagues with that regard. They only have one healthy player that has been able to slug out more than 15 home runs this season. That'd be Christian Yelich with 26 bombs. But Andrew Vaughn, ever since he got to town, 9 home runs in his first 134 at-bats, about a 385 on base. He's been great. Isaac Collins has been able to give you about a 375 on base, and you just have a lot of guys that are moving the line for this team. Like, you've had Christian Yelich, Sal Frelick, William Contreras, Bryce Terang, all between about a 340 to a 363 on base. Even Caleb Durbin has given you about a 322 on base. Andrew Monasterio had a big home run in that series against the Reds. He's been able to hit about a 255, so top to bottom, this team has been rock solid there. And for Robbie Ray, he's been a little bit less effective away from home rather than at home. Swing and miss stuff is a little bit down, but he has been able to reduce on the amount of deep balls that he's been giving up this year as well. 285 ERA for a good friend of Mr. Robbie Ray. He's given up 1 home run to 3.3 walks per 9 innings, down to about 9.2 strikeouts per 9 innings, but overall has been relatively steady. He has given up 2 earned runs or fewer in 4 of his last 5 starts. He has been on the hook for a few unearned runs, but all in all, do think that this is going to be a low-scoring game. 7 or less, looking at the over 7.5 or higher. The under now, if it's a Brewers bullpen game, 7.5 or less to the over, 8 or higher to the under. And with the Brewers, minus 140 with Woodruff on the mound on the money line, probably closer to like a minus 110, somewhere in that neighborhood if it's a bullpen game, and then we need at least a plus 149 to take a shot on Ray if it is indeed Woodruff. 909-910 on the betting board. The Slam Diego Padres play host to the LA Dodgers. Yoshinobu Yamamoto is on the bump for the Dodgers. Nick Pivetta is on the bump for the Padres. Padres are anywhere between even money to minus 105, between minus 108 to a minus 115 is that number on the Dodgers. It is a total. The under's minus 120 and the over is even, and with the Dodgers, set them at a minus 111. So at a minus 110 or better, I'm willing to take a shot here for Yamamoto. He has had a few issues recently, but overall for the LA Dodgers, he's been one of the most consistent just starters in general. 290 ERA, 312 fielding independent, keeping the ball in the yard, 0.8 home runs allowed per 9 innings. He is giving up 10.2 strikeouts per 9 innings and did have that 6 spot that he gave up on the road against the LA Angels, but all in all has actually been able to do a relatively solid job on the road this far this season. As for our good friend and Mr. Yamamoto, 242 road ERA, 5 home runs allowed in 78 innings when he's been away from Los Angeles, so that's been pretty solid. And then Nick Pivetta has just been a master at being able to pitch in San Diego. You'll notice that when he was with the Boston Red Sox last few seasons, he always had worse summers at home rather than on the road, as he's a little bit more of a fly ball pitcher. That's why he's been able to excel so much when he's been in San Diego. 343 road ERA, 235 ERA at home. For Pivetta at home, he's given up about 0.86 home runs per 9 innings at home, a little bit more than 1 home run per 9 innings when he has been away from home. And the big thing for Pivetta is that he is backed up by the number 1 bullpen in the big leagues in terms of ERA with the Padres. Got so many guys like Jeremiah Estrada, Adrian Morejon, Jason Adam, David Morgan, these guys who have been able to give you a sub-3 ERA. The big problem for the San Diego Padres has honestly been the power. They've been in the bottom 8 in the big leagues in terms of home runs on a per-at-bat basis. Ramon Laureano coming in, 19 total home runs this year. That helps out quite a bit. And then you do have a tree of guys, Fernando Tatis Jr., Gavin Sheets, Manny Machado with 17 plus home runs this season. Machado about a 350 on base. Tatis has been stuck on 17 home runs for quite some time, but still give you a 370 on base. Sheets is up to 17 bombs, and then you bring in Ryan O'Hearn. Hasn't really given you a lot of power since coming on over to this team, but still has been able to be a guy that's able to move the line. He's been providing over a 350 on base, so that's been pretty rock solid. Jake Cronenworth, 357 on base, but not hitting for a lot of average. 9 home runs, you could use a bit more there. And then for the LA Dodgers, you do have to have a little bit of trepidation with this offense, because when they were without Max Muncy in the month of July, they were in the bottom half of the big leagues in terms of runs per game. You can tell that they always are a little bit affected when he's out of the fold, but that said, Andy Paz, Teoscar Hernandez, 21 home runs apiece, and in the case of Paz, hitting at 275. Freddie Freeman continues at a 300 with 16 home runs. Will Smith, 15 bombs, over a 400 on base. And then Shohei Ohtani, 390 on base, 44 home runs. You know exactly what you're going to be able to get out of him. But I do think that in the end, for the Dodgers, they do just enough to be able to get to Nick Pivetta. And I do think that this is going to be a low-scoring game out there in the pitcher-friendly ballpark. So my total is 7.6. So in on the under, do have a little bit of trepidation with this Dodgers bullpen. But do think that Yamamoto is going to be able to give you some good innings. And you do have a few top-end guys that have been solid for this Dodgers bullpen. As Blake Trine comes off the injured list, you've had Jack Dreher supply about a 303 ERA. Alex Vesia has been solid, and Edgardo Enriquez, in a small sample size, he has yet to give up a run in his 9 appearances. So going to be going with the Dodgers up to a minus 110 on the money line, and here at the 8 semi-total 7.6, I'm in on the under. 9-11, 9-12 on the card. The Cincinnati Reds, and yes, we're on to Cincinnati. They're onto the road to face off against the Arizona Diamondbacks. Zach Allen looks to fill it up for the Saints, and Brady Singer hopes to have the Diamondbacks singing the blues, as For the Reds, they're between plus 104 to a plus 109. Minus 120 to minus 126 is that number on Arizona, and the total is 9. The under is minus 115, the over is minus 105, and they make this total a 9.2. I'm in on the over. Zach Gallen just has had a miserable season, posting up a 5.28 ERA with 1.6 home runs, 3.1 walks per 9 innings, and it's not as if he's supported by some sort of a great bullpen. Right now for the Arizona Diamondbacks, they are 27th in the big leagues with a 4.83 bullpen ERA. They trade away Shelby Miller, who's really been your lone guy that has been solid in the bullpen. Juan Burgos, in a small sample size, hasn't been awful, but man, when you've got so many guys that are just rocking a ERA of a 4 or higher, like Jalen Beeks, who was the opener yesterday, Kyle Backus, Juan Murillo, Bryce Jarvis is a long guy that they're probably going to be looking at a little bit more in September. Jake Woodford, man, it's just not great. And for the Arizona Diamondbacks, it continues to be a top 8 team in terms of runs per game, but no Eugenio Suarez, no as well Josh Naylor. That really does affect this offense. Though Corbin Carroll up to 27 home runs. He had a little bit of a rough go of it coming off the injury list, but it's looked much better recently, so love to be able to see that going into yesterday. He had 7 hits in the last 5 games, so it looks like he's starting to get back into form. You've been able to have Ketel Marte give you a really nice on-base percentage, and he had that 13 pitch at Pat in the 10th inning earlier in the series that pretty much won them the game. On Friday, he and Geraldo Perdomo both give you above a 390 on base, and Marte has seen his power go down a little bit, but still 23 home runs overall for the season. Now you need a little bit more out of someone like a Blaze Alexander is hitting at 225 for home runs at his first 120 at-bats. Tyler Locklear has been hitting right around about a 200. Adrian Del Castro, 278 on base with 2 home runs at 75 at-bats, so just need a bit more there. And for the Cincinnati Reds, other than Ellie De La Cruz, it's a whole bunch of mix and match guys. De La Cruz has been stuck on 19 home runs for quite some time, but he's been able to give you about a 350 on base. Spencer Sears up to 15 home runs, but it's about a 235. But you do have plenty of guys who are able to move line, get on base. Navali Marte has been able to hit about a 300. TJ Friedel, 365 on base. Gavin Lux, a 355 on base. Austin Hayes has been able to hit about a 255 with 10 bombs. So you've had these guys be able to step up. For the Reds, they've been right around about league average in terms of their bullpen ERA all season long. Not great, not terrible. Emilio Pagan does give up the deep ball a little bit too much, but he and Tony Santillan both give you a sub 305 ERA. They did trade away Taylor Rogers at the trade deadline, but Scott Barlow, Brent Suter, Louis May, between about a 340 to a 350 ERA, they've been able to do a pretty rock solid job. And for Brady Singer, I recognize that the overall season numbers have not been amazing with a 408 ERA, but still, 3 runs or fewer allowed in 14 out of his last 17 starts, and 1 run or less in 4 out of his last 5 starts. He's right around his average for his career with about 8 to 8.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. The walks have been a little bit higher with about 3.4 walks per 9 innings, but I think that he goes out there against the Diamondbacks, gets the job done. I did set my money line with the Reds being the favorite of a minus 108 with the way that Gallen has been struggling, so I'm in on the Reds on the money line and made my total 9.2 set to 9. I'm also in on the over, 913, 914 on the card. The Houston Astros are on the road facing off against the Baltimore Orioles, as it is one Spencer Arrighetti, Mom Spaghetti, on the bum for the Astros, and Trevor Rogers goes for the Orioles. Orioles are between minus 140 to minus 150 favorites, plus 122 to a plus 131, that number on the Astros. 9 is the total, under is minus 115, and the over is minus 105. And for the Orioles, I did set them at a minus 158 on the money line. Don't really want to go run line here, but I'm on Justin Trevor Rogers. He has been absolutely remarkable this year. In 12 starts, a 141 ERA. And if you remember back to when he was at the minor league level, he was like terrible with AAA Norfolk. He's given up 2 home runs in 76 and a third innings. Not some sort of strikeout machine, 7.9 strikeouts per 9 innings, but he just keeps things out in front of him. 1.9 walks allowed per 9 innings. He's given up a combined 4 runs over the course of his last 5 starts. And those last 5 starts, he has been averaging 7 innings a start, so he has won a combined 35 innings in those last starts. So he has been really good with that regard. And then on the flip side, for Spencer Arrighetti, he is a guy that's all over the place, and he is a sort of living embodiment of Rick the Wild Thing Vaughn. 6.94 ERA overall for the season. He, for his career, gets about 10.3 strikeouts per 9 innings, but for Arrighetti, 1.5 home runs, 5.8 walks allowed per 9 innings. Spent a lot of time on the injured list. In his 3 starts since coming off the injured list, a combined 13 and a third innings, he has allowed 12 runs, all of which have been earned, and he goes up against an Orioles team that's been a lot better with their offense when they've been at home rather than away from home. For the Orioles, as a matter of fact, away from home, they are dead last in the American League in terms of runs per game. Meanwhile, at home, closer to about 5 runs per contest. That is a top 10 mark in all of baseball, albeit for Baltimore, they are dealing with quite a few injuries. Jordan Westburg hits the injured list. He's been able to give you 15 home runs and quite a bit bit of average. So have Gunnar Henderson, Jackson Holiday, 15 home runs apiece. And in the case of Henderson, over a 350 on base. Adley Rutschman has been dealing with an injury, but I have no fear. This team has a young gun at the catcher spot that they are probably going to be signing to a very long-term deal in Sam Basallo, who's been able to produce for them in his first few games out there. You've had the likes of Tyler O'Neill and Dylan Carlson and company not produced out there in the outfield. Colin Cowser has been a little bit of an issue, but overall for the Orioles, they have been able to be pretty solid at the top of the lineup. And then for the bullpen, it has not been solid for the Orioles. They have been in the bottom 8 in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. Keegan Aiken, Alon Dietrich Enzo in Orioles uniforms, a sub-325 ERA. Kate Stout has been able to give you a few solid innings as well, but then you have the likes of Yarmil Hidalgo, along with Grant Wolfram, Corbin Martin, a lot of guys posting up an ERA of a 450 or higher, and that is the big advantage that you do have with the Houston Astros. They are a top 10 team in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA, albeit you're currently without Josh Hader, but the Bryants, Brian King, Brian Abreu, Stephen Okert, Bennett Sosa, these guys have been very rock solid. They've been able to give you sub 355 ERA. Caleb Bordes went down the toilet bowl a little bit, but overall these guys have been solid. And for the Astros, you've got Jose Altuve slugging out 22 home runs, and you get 275. Yanier Diaz, along with Christian Walker, don't provide a lot of on base, but 18 home runs apiece, so you'll take that. Jeremy Pena is hitting above 300 as well, so it's a very interesting circumstance. I did set the Orioles at a minus 158 on the money line. Do think they get a little bit of a lower scoring game, so in on that 9 under, and I'm in on the O's on the money line. 9:15, 9:16 on the card. The New York Yankees play host the Boston Red Sox. Dustin May hopes that it's May Day for the Yankees, and you've got one Mr. Carlos Rodon on the bump for the Yankees. The Yankees are between a minus 148 to a minus 160 favorites, plus 128 to a plus 139 is that number on Boston. 8.5 is the total. Over and under between minus 105 to a minus 115, and did somebody tell it at 8.6, so I'm going to be in on the over. I don't think that we're going to get quite the ninth inning barrage of runs that we saw from the Red Sox, and I do think that the Yankees avoid the sweep here. I did set their money line price at a minus 163. If you're looking at that initial FanDuel opener to lay run F with the Yankees, you're going to be getting a plus 118. I would need closer to a plus 120, which I think when it's all said and done, we should be able to get that. I'd be surprised if this is as low as it is towards first pitch, as Carlos Rodon has been a pretty steady Eddie pitcher this year. 3.24 ERA. He's giving up 1.1 home runs per 9 innings, which has been his bugaboo since going to New York. Has been much better this year. He's given up about 3.5 walks per 9 innings, but like what I'm seeing from him, 2 earned runs or fewer given up at each out of his last 3 starts, albeit the swing and miss stuff has been down a little bit in that time span, but he's holding down the fort. He's doing a solid job, and for Dustin May, he has been better with the Boston Red Sox. He had a rough go of it with the LA Dodgers this year when he was in a Dodgers uniform, was posting up a 4.85 ERA, giving up about 1.5 home runs per 9 innings. Since going to Boston, I recognize it's a 3-start sample size, but 5 runs allowed in 15 2/3 innings. He's getting darn near 10 strikeouts per 9 innings, so you do love to be able to see that 300 runs or fewer given up in all 3 of those starts. Now he does have to go up against a New York Yankees team that I know that the offense has been held down in the first few games of the series, but I don't think that it's going to be held down for long. Pretty much everyone in the lineup, other than Paul Goldschmidt and Yasan Dominguez, whenever he gets a start, are going to be above 17 home runs this season. You need a little bit more average out of some of these guys. Anthony Volpe, Austin Wells, both hitting below 210, both with less than a 275 on base, less than savory, but Giancarlo Stanton, 16 home runs and darn near 160 at-bats, 380 on base has been amazing. You've got Aaron Judge at a 440 on base, 40 home runs. Ben Rice, 20-plus home runs with a 340 on base. Jed Chisholm, he pinch hit yesterday. He's been able to give you about a 330 on base. He's been able to crank out the deep ball as well. Ahmed Rosario, when he starts as well, doesn't necessarily give you a whole bunch of power, but still, this has been a Yankees team that has been rock solid there. And for the Red Sox, they are without their main guy in terms of home runs with Wheeler Abreu on the injury list, but Trevor Story is up to 20 bombs. Would like to see higher than a 306 on base, as for the Red Sox, you don't have a ton of guys that draw a ton of walks, but you got Cedon Rafaela, Carlos Narvaez, Jaron Duran, only between about a 249 to a 261. Rafaela has been able to give you 14 home runs. You've had Alex Bregman really move the line. He's giving you 390 on base, and a guy that does walk is Roman Anthony, 400 on base. The power numbers have not necessarily been supreme with him, but he's been solid with that regard. And for the Red Sox, this is a top 7 team in the big leagues in terms of their bullpen ERA, as you've had Aroldis Chapman be one of the best closers in all baseball with a sub-135 ERA. They have now moved Walker Buehler to the bullpen. That's not necessarily the world's greatest thing, but you still have quite a few guys that are going out there holding down the fort Greg Weiser, the long guy, and Garrett Whitlock, Justin Wilson, Brendan Bernardino. These are guys that are giving you a sub-3.5 ERA. And for the New York Yankees, you got Luke Weaver looking a little bit better since coming off the injured list. Yuri De Los Santos have both been able to give you a sub-4 ERA. Tim Hill has been able to give you some good innings, and David Bednar, since they picked him up, has been solid. Camilo Doval has not been, so a little bit of interest there, but I do think that you get some runs in this spot. The Red Sox have been miserable with men in scoring position other than the ninth inning yesterday, so I think that that'll improve. I'm going to be willing to take a shot on the Yankees at a plus 120 or higher on the run line, and sell by total at 8.6, so you're at the 8.5. I like the over. 9:17, 9:18 on the card. The Tigers are playing those to the Kansas City Royals. Captain Jack Flaherty is on the bump for the Tigres, and one Mr. Seth Lugo goes for the Royals. Royals who find themselves as between plus 122 to plus 132 underdogs, and minus 140 to minus 145 is that number on Detroit. 8.5 is the total. Unders between minus 110 to a minus 120. Overs between even a minus 110. And for the Tigers, made their money line a minus 148. I don't really want to go run line here, but I'm going to be willing to go money line. I just am not much of a Seth Lugo guy because this guy is so overdue for regression right now that it's not even funny. For Mr. Seth Lugo, 3.73 ERA, and he's been experiencing a bit of that regression recently as he has given up a combined now 16 runs, 15 of which have been earned in his last 3 starts, giving up 6 home runs in that time span. But to go along with that 3.73 ERA, 498 fielding dependent, 1.6 home runs, 3.2 walks allowed per 9 innings. He's only getting about 7.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, so he's pitching to a lot of contact. And for Lugo, he's been different when he has been at home versus on the road. On the road, he has currently given up a 4.24 ERA compared to a 3.28 ERA when he is at home. And for Captain Jack Flaherty, it does feel like he's starting to finally find it. He has been haunted by the deep ball himself, as he has been giving up about 1.4 home runs per 9 innings, and 12 losses has been less than savory. 4.51 ERA, but he's got closer to a 3.86 fielding dependent, so do think that things are going to round into form for him. He has been able to get about 11 strikeouts per 9 innings, has given up 5+ runs in 2 out of his last 5 starts, but he's also given up 1 run or fewer in 3 out of his last 5 starts. So you've got the good and the bad there. Now what has been bad for the Tigers has been this bullpen recently. If you look since the beginning of the month of June, this team has actually been really miserable in the bullpen. 24th in terms of bullpen ERA. Tommy Kahnle has a lot to thank for that. Tommy Kahnle has been absolutely terrible with over a 4.50 ERA. Chase Lee, when he's been out there, they had to option him down to the minor league level. He's been awful. Brendan Hennessy has been a little bit touch and go this season. He's posting up about a 3 ERA, so he's been solid, but now you're looking at Rafael Montero, who's more like Rafael Montero Bull. He's been giving it up. You've got Brand Herter along with Will Vest, who have both been able to give you a sub 3.25 ERA, but Herter's now dealing with a little bit of injury as well. And then for the Tigers, it is a very consistent lineup. Like, you take a look at them on the day in and day out basis, typically you've got like all but one guy in the starting lineup hitting between about a we're going to call it 48 to a 270. Like, all these guys are doing a solid job moving the line. They had to trot out their Jake Rogers, the backup catcher, yesterday instead of one of their other main guys. But, I mean, still, you've got the likes of Cole Keith, Gary Carpenter, Gleyber Torres, Zach McKinstry, Dylan Dingler, all doing a nice job being moved the line. Then Riley Green hits for a 263 with 30 home runs. Spencer Torkelson is typically the oddball that doesn't hit above a 255, but he's hitting a 242, north of a 335 on base with 26 home runs, and Gary Carpenter is up to 22 home runs this season. For the Royals, they've actually been a top 8 team in the big leagues in terms of runs per game since the All-Star break, but still in the bottom 6 overall for the season. Vinny Pasquantino and Salvador Perez starting to pick it up with the deep ball. Pasquantino is up to 27 bombs, hitting at 265. Salvador Perez, 22 home runs himself, and Miguel Garcia is hitting at 300. Bobby Witt Jr. just below a 300 with 34 stolen bases, 18 home runs of his own, but you're just not getting a lot from the bottom of the lineup. Randall Grichuk is good for getting on base, about a 245 average, but he doesn't give you a ton of power. Jonathan India, you just expect a bit more than hitting at 235 with 8 home runs. Kyle Isbell hits for about a 266, but he gets a home run every about like 75 or so at bat, so that's a little bit of an issue. Now for the Royals, they do have the leg up in the bullpen, as you've got a pair of guys in Carlos Estevez, Lucas Sursage, who've been able to give you a sub 325 ERA, but Hunter Harvey is back on the injured list along with Steven Cruz. John Schreiber, sub 350 ERA. Daniel Lynch has been pretty solid as well, but overall, I do look at this spot. I do think that Jack Flaherty going to be able to get some swings and misses and get the job done. I did set the Tigers on the money line at a minus 148, so going to be willing to lay that. I did make my total at an 8.4, so you're at the 8.5. I like the under. 919, 920 on the card. The Minnesota Twins are on the road against the Chicago White Sox. We know that it's going to be Yandres Gomez going for the White Sox. Right now, the board reads to be determined for the Minnesota Twins, but this looks like it should be Taj, don't call him Milton Bradley, who gets a start here. Right now, not seeing any sort of opener, but I've got my handicap. As long as you do get Bradley going against Gomez, I did set the Twins at a minus 122 on the money line. Willing to go up to a minus 121 there, plus 123 or higher in on the Sox, and then made a total on it been 8.3. So an 8 or less, I'm in on the over, 8.5 or higher, the under. For Yandres Gomez, when he was at the minor league level for the AAA affiliate of the White Sox out there in Charlotte, he was actually really good. As for Gomez, he was getting over 11 strikeouts per 9 innings, sub 250 ERA. In his few starts here with the Chicago White Sox, it hasn't been awful thus far, as he has had 5 total appearances, 2 of which have been starts, 473 ERA, 8 strikeouts per 9 innings. He's got closer to a 409, fielding independent. He did give up 4 runs, 3 of which were earned in that start against the Atlanta Braves, but gave up 1 run in 5 innings in his first home start against the Detroit Tigers, so he had things rocking and rolling there. So I do think that there's a little bit of upside there, and assuming that you do get Taj Bradley, whether that be as a starter or maybe they throw an opener for Taj Bradley, he had some okay results in his career with the Tampa Bay Rays. Strikeout stuff is way down this year, 7.7 strikeouts per 9 innings, but he's also giving up only 1.1 home runs per 9 innings. That's by far a career best for Bradley. They tried to rehab him sort of at the minor league level for Minnesota. He made 3 starts with St. Paul. Did not look great, as he in 14 and a third innings gave up 4 home runs and a 7.53 ERA, but I have noticed that he has oftentimes posted up better numbers at the major league level rather than the minor league level. He's just very strange with that regard, and he does get to go up against a Chicago White Sox lineup that is in the bottom 7 in the big leagues in terms of runs per game. Lenyn Sosa has been your main form of power. He's actually been really good, posting up a 270 average, 17 home runs, and then you've got a trio of guys, Luis Robert, Ender Benintendi, Miguel Vargas, all between 13 and 14 home runs. All 3 of these guys, though, hitting at 230 or lower, and it's just rampant with this team. Michael A. Taylor, Brooks Baldwin, a whole bunch of guys are posting up a sub 295 on base. Colson Montgomery, 11 home runs and 140 at bats, but a 283 on base, 221 batting average, so you just need a little bit more there. Joshua Palacios, Joshua Rojas, whenever they got at bats, just not great. And for the White Sox, this has been a team that's been right around about league average in terms of their bullpen ERA. Have quite a few guys that fell down the fort. Dan Altavilla is on the injured list, but he, Steven Wilson, Mike Vasil have been able to give you a sub 325 ERA. Longer guys like Tyler Alexander, Tyler Gilbert in a White Sox uniform and a White Sox uniform only, sub 350 ERA, but then you got like Cam Bouger, Grant Taylor, Brandon Eisert, who are posting up an ERA above a 425. And on the other end for the Minnesota Twins, they traded away all their good pieces at the trade deadline, so this is a very much gutted team, as now you're looking at the likes of Cody Funderburk, Cole Sands, Michael Tonkin, all with above a 355 ERA. Coming out of this bullpen, Pearson Ewell, he's been a little bit of a long guy, a little bit of starter with a ERA above a 6, so that's not amazing. And then for the Minnesota Twins, this is a lineup that still has Byron Buxton, give you about a 270 average with 25 home runs, and Royce Lewis, that's coming off the injury list, has been able to hit above a 260. You've got Matt Wallner along with Cody Clemens being able to combine for 29 home runs. Problem is, both of these guys sit at 215 or lower. Wallner does give you a 320 on base. Clemens closer about a 280, so that's been an issue. Deshaun Kersey, whenever they've given him at bats, he's hit quite literally a 110. Luke Keckshiel has actually been able to hit above a 300. He's been able to give the team a little bit of production, but it's a mix and match lineup that does have Ryan Jeffers hitting for about a 350 on base. So interesting spot here. If you do get Bradley against Gomez, minus 121 or better, looking at the Twins, plus 123 or higher, the White Sox, and then Interless in on the over 8.5 or higher, the under 921, 922 on the card. It is the Guardians on the road against the Walker Texas Rangers. Merrill Kelly goes for the Rangers, and Gavin Williams is on the bump for Cleveland. Cleveland is between a plus 108 to a plus 118 underdog, minus 123 to a minus 132 is the number on the Rangers, and you've got a total of 8 with the over and under anywhere between minus 105 to a minus 115, and I'm going to be willing to lay it with the Walker Texas Rangers, set them at a minus 152. Recognize that for Merrill Kelly, things have been a little bit up and down since he got traded to Texas, but still overall for the season has been a very effective pitcher, and he's been experiencing a little bit of a tick up with regards to his swing and miss stuff this year. About 8.3 strikeouts at 2.6 walks per 9 innings. 335 ERA, 383 fielding dependent. In his 4 starts with the Texas Rangers, has given up 5 home runs, but he appears to have rounded into form as he's actually given up 2 runs or fewer in 4 out of his last 5 starts. So, I mean, he's been relatively fine there. He gets to go up against the Cleveland Guardians lineup, by the way, that it's just so top-heavy that it's hard to be able to trust in them because Jose Ramirez has obviously been tremendous for this team. He's been able to give you above a 350 on base. He's been able to supply this team with now 26 home runs, so you'd love to see that. Steven Kwan at the top, he's hitting about a 270, but then you just have so many dead bats out there. And it's not even funny. Gabriel Urias, Anel Martinez, Davis Schneemann, Kyle Manzardo, Brian Rocchio, all these guys are essentially in the neighborhood of a 225 to 235, and then David Fry, Austin Hedges, Bo Naylor, so many guys hitting at 215 or lower. It's not even funny. Now, I will say for Kyle Manzardo, though he's hitting at 233, closer about a 320 on base with 21 home runs. And for the Texas Rangers, if you look since the beginning of the month of July, they're averaging about 4.7 runs per game, so they've been better there. Wyatt Langford, Corey Seager are both up to 19 home runs apiece. Seager has been able to give you darn near 375 on base, and Kyle Higashioka has been one of the main catalysts for this recent run for the team. He has been hitting above a 300 since the beginning of the month of July. Adolis Garcia has been a little bit banged up, but he's back. He's given the team 16 home runs, still hitting only about a 225. Marcus Semien has been dealing with a little bit of injury as well, but I mean, it's not like he's done a ton for the team as far this season, as this is a little bit of a gutted team. Jonah Heim is right now still seeing at bats. That's not a place where you want to be, but for the Texas Rangers, this continues to be one of the more rock-solid bullpens out there in all of baseball. Danny Kaluma hasn't necessarily been as great with the Rangers as he was with the Twins, but he, Sean Armstrong, Hobie Milner, Phil Matone, again, has taken a little bit of a drop-off for the Rangers, but all these guys sub 350 ERA this far this season. Robert Garcia has been hit or miss as a closer, but still relatively solid. And for the Cleveland Guardians, if you look since the beginning of the month of June, this has been one of the better bullpens that you're going to find in all baseball. This despite the fact that they don't have Emmanuel Clase in the fold. Now, Cade Smith had a little bit of an issue a few days ago, but this team is still 4th in the league in terms of bullpen ERA since the beginning of the month of June, as he, Eric Zabrowski, Nick Enright, Jacob Junis have all been able to give you sub 335 ERA. Matthew Festa has been an issue, but Hunter Gaddis, after having a little bit of a miserable middle of the season, he's starting to pick it up as well. But for Gavin Williams, just do have a lot of question mark in terms of command for him, as for Williams, he's got a 324 ERA. That fielding dependence is over a full point higher because he's giving up over 4.5 walks per 9 innings. He gets 9 strikeouts per 9 innings, and I mean, he's on a good run. He's been able to give up a combined 7 runs over the course of his last 5 starts, so you do love to be able to see that. But I mean, he's even given up about 1.3 or so home runs per 9 innings, so he's given up a little bit too much hard contact, and on the road for Gavin Williams, over 1.4 home runs a lot per 9 innings. So me and my total at 8.1 at an 8. I like the over, and the Rangers on the money line, 923, 924 on the card. The A's, the Athletics, are on the road against the Mariners, as Logan Gilbert goes for the Mariners, and Jacob Lopez is on the bump for the Athletics. The Athletics between plus 138 to plus 147 underdogs, minus 159 to minus 169. Then number on Seattle, 7.5 is the total. The over and under are both between minus 105 to a minus 115, and if you're looking to lay that run half right now with Seattle, that initial FanDuel opener, you're getting a plus 125 there, and I would be willing to take a shot there. Pretty much even money or better, I was willing to take a shot on that Mariners run line. For Logan Gilbert, he has just been so good in terms of being able to get swings and misses this year. Mr. Gilbert posting up a 383 ERA, but closer to a 326 fielding dependent, 12.3 strikeouts per 9 innings. He does allow the 1.4 bombs per 9 innings, but for Logan Gilbert, he, much like many of these Seattle Mariners pitchers, always does a better job when he is at home rather than on the road. A 6 ERA on the road for Logan Gilbert. Gilbert is giving up above 2 home runs per 9 innings away from home. At home, he's giving up closer to about 0.8 to 0.9 home runs per 9 innings. That drops to a 2.22 ERA. He does have to go up against an Athletics team that they've got some good firepower at the top. Right now, you've got a quartet of different guys that would be able to slug out at least 23 home runs for the team, but all 4 of those guys have been able to hit at least a 265, including Shea Langolaris, who typically hits for no average, but he's up to 28 bombs. Nick Kurtz, a 4 on base with 26 home runs. Brent Rooker hitting about a 270 with 26 home runs. Soderstrom is up to 23 bombs, hitting about a 270. Now, the bottom of the lineup, the likes of J.J. Bleday, Lawrence Butler, these guys have had struggles, so Butler still give you 17 home runs and 17 stolen bases, so that helps out a little bit. They're getting back Jacob Wilson as well. He's been able to hit above a 300 this year, but spent a lot of time on the injured list, and for the Athletics, a big issue that you do have with this team. The bullpen, they are currently in the bottom 5 of the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. Have had a pair of guys in Michael Kelly, Sean Newcomb, be able to supply a sub-3 ERA. Logan Harris has looked a little bit better with about a 3.70 ERA, but then you got the likes of Justin Sterner, Osvaldo Bido, Grant Holman, Ben Bowden, Elvis Alvarado, all posting up at least a 3.75 ERA. And for the Seattle Mariners, the top guys have been very good. Matt Brash, Andres Munoz, Edward Bizardo, Gabe Spire, all give you a sub-3.25 ERA for the Seattle Mariners. And and Eugenio Suarez hitting below the middle sign of 200 with Seattle. Has been a little bit rough, but he's up to 38 home runs overall this season. Then you've obviously got the big jumper in Cal Raleigh, give you a 350 on base, 47 home runs. JP Crawford moves the line with about a 360 or so on base. And then Julio Rodriguez, along with Randy Arozarena, both 23 plus home runs apiece. Arozarena, 340 on base with 23 bombs. Rodriguez, 25 home runs. He's hitting about a 260. It's been hot and cold as well for Ore Polanco, but he got a home run in this series. He's hitting for about a 250, and do think that for Seattle, they get the much better start here rather than Jacob Lopez, who's been getting a lot of strikeouts, and I think that Lopez can give you a relatively solid start, but I went through just how rough that bullpen is right now for the Athletics, and for Mr. Jacob Lopez, 328 ERA, close to about a 382 fielding dependent. He has been giving up 3 walks per 9 innings, 11 strikeouts per 9 is actually relatively impressive, and for Lopez, 2 earned runs allowed in his last 5 starts. I do think that this is going to dry out a little bit. He has also been able to give you just a whopping amount of strikeouts recently, 27 strikeouts over the course of his last 3 starts as well, but I do think that Seattle is going to be able to figure him out. I do think that Logan Gilbert gets the job done for the Mariners, made my total at 7.7, so like the 7.5 over and the Mariners run line, 925, 926 on the card. The Cardinals are on the road against the Tampa Bay Rays, as it is 1 Mr. Ryan Pepiot on the bump for the Rays, and Matthew Liberatore goes for St. Louis. St. Louis plus 108 to plus 112 underdogs, minus 121 to minus 132. That number on the Rays with a total of 9. The under is minus 115, over is minus 105, and I did set my total at an 8.7. I'm in on the under. For Matthew Liberatore, I do think that there's positivity coming for him. Now, Liberatore is just giving up a little bit too much general contact, but that said, for Mr. Liberatore, 4.13 ERA compared to a 3.79 fielding dependent, 7 strikeouts per 9 innings. He doesn't hurt himself. He gives up 1 home run, 2.1 walks per 9 innings, has given up at least 3 runs in each out of his last 4 starts, but he had to pitch on the road against the Dodgers and the Padres in that time span as well, so a little bit more forgivable. And for Ryan Pepiot, he is probably doing for a little bit of negative regression with the way that he has been giving up a lot of hard contact this year. 3.95 ERA, but a 4.56 fielding dependent, 1.6 home runs, 3.1 walks allowed per 9 innings. He has given up at least 3 runs at each out of his last 4 starts as well, but gets to go up against the St. Louis Cardinals lineup that over the last week they've actually gotten things going. Prior to this week, they were a bottom 3 team in the big leagues in terms of runs per game since the beginning of the month of July, but they've all of a sudden been able to find it a little bit more. Wilson Contreras has really been able to round into form, and he has been the main form of offense right now for the St. Louis Cardinals, as he's right now slugging out 19 home runs, on base percentage hovering right around about a 345. You do have a few other guys there moving the line, getting on base. Alec Burleson, 15 home runs, hitting at 285. Brendan Donovan was hitting at 280, but now he's on the injured list. But a lot of these young guys just have not stepped up for the team. Nolan Gorman, Victor Scott, Jordan Walker, only below a 230. And I mean, for Scott, he has been able to give you 31 stolen bases and a 311 on base, but you just expect a little bit more there. Mason Wynn is up to about a 260, so he's been solid. And whenever you've had out there Ivan Herrera at the catcher spot, 360 on base with 10 home runs, he's been solid. And it's a St. Louis Cardinals bullpen that has been pretty good in their own right. They trade away Ryan Elsley, which at this point is not looking like a bad thing. You've had the likes of Kyle Leahy, Matt Savanson, Jojo Romero, Riley O'Brien. I'll give you a sub 325 ERA for the Tampa Bay Rays. This continues to be a bullpen that's in the upper half of the big leagues with regards to their ERA. They did send Eric Orsay down to the minor league level, which I thought was curious to say the least, but I mean, you've been able to get some good production out of Connor Siebold as a little bit of a long guy. He, Pete Fairbanks, along with Garrett Clevenger, have all been able to supply a sub 280 ERA. Ian Seymour is a bit of a long guy, has been relatively okay as well. And for the Tampa Bay Rays, you've got Junior Caminero, who's been able to give you 36 home runs. He's hitting about a 255. Doesn't really draw a lot of walks, but having back Brandon Lau and his 25 home runs, hitting at 270, that's rock solid. Yandy Diaz is hitting for about a 280 with 21 bombs himself. You've been able to get about a 300 average and 37 stolen bases out of Chandler Simpson. He's been solid. The bottom of the lineup with the likes of Taylor Walls, Sir Cam Misner, Christopher Morel, these guys at 230 or lower have been a little bit rough, and Jonathan Aranda being on the injured list has not helped his team's cause, but do think that for the Rays, they do just enough to get to Liberatore and get the job done. Made my total at an 8.7, so I'm going to be in on the Rays money line up to a minus 127, set them at a minus 128, and I do like the 9 under, 927, 928 on the card. The Toronto Blue Jays are on the road against the Miami Marlins. Yuri Perez is on the bump for Miami, and Kevin Gausman goes for Toronto. Toronto's a minus 124 to a minus 132 favorite, plus 108 to a plus 115. Then around Miami, the total is 8 over and under, anywhere between minus 1 105 to a minus 115. And for Toronto, I did set them at a minus 106. So getting that plus 110, I'm going to be willing to take a shot on Miami. Eury Perez is just a guy that really impresses me, and I think that he's going to do a nice job of holding down this lineup. For Eury Perez, 3.48 ERA compared to a 3.73 fielding dependent. He is giving up about 3.3 walks per 9 innings, but this has been a guy that has really had it going on when he has been at home. A lot of his struggles have been coming away from home, as Miami is one of the most pitcher-friendly ballparks that you're going to find in all of baseball. 2.08 home ERA with 0 home runs allowed in 26 innings, 7 bombs given up in 38 2/3 innings, and a 4.42 ERA away from home. For Kevin Gausman, has been a little bit of a touch-and-go season for him, but it does feel like he's starting to round into a little bit of better form. 2 earned runs of fear allowed in 4 of his last 5 starts. For Mr. Gausman, 8.7 strikeouts and 1.2 home runs allowed per 9 innings, 3.78 ERA, 3.78 fielding dependent, so he's very much in a line there. And for the Toronto Blue Jays, this has been about a league average bullpen. Nothing great, nothing terrible. You've got the killer bees in Brandon Little and Braden Fisher, who'll be able to give you a sub 3.25 ERA. Uriel Rodriguez has been regressing a little bit, but still has been solid in this bullpen. They do pick up Louis Varland, who has been a little bit less effective for the team, and then you've got Mason Fluharty rocking a 5 ERA. Jeff Hoffman is honestly been great as well, but for the Blue Jays, this has become one of the best offenses in all of baseball, with just having a lot of depth in this lineup. You've got Vlager Jr. and George Springer up to 21 home runs apiece, both give you a above 380 on base. Now, Guerrero's right now dealing with a little bit of an injury. You do want to be noting that Bo Bichette, though, he's hitting for nearly 300, up to 16 home runs. Sultan Varsho, he doesn't give you a lot of average, 294 on base, but 14 home runs in his first 144 at-bats. He'll take that. Alejandro Kirk, don't call his name, he's been hitting above a 290 as well, so overall this team has been able to move the line. And for the Miami Marlins, did have to downgrade them a little bit with Kyle Sowers being out of the lineup, as he is really the straw that stirs the drink for the team. 370 on base, 25 home runs. I have one guy on the roster outside of him with over 11 home runs, Augustin Ramirez. He's only providing about a 290 on base to go with his 18 home runs. Though Xavier Edwards at the top is sitting at 300. You've got Liam Hicks, who's been able to give you about a 355 on base. Javier Sonja has been hot and cold, but he's looked a little bit better in this series. And Alberto Hernandez, in a small sample size, he's been with about a 275. And then Jacob Marcy, it's been a small sample size for him, 21 games, but 4 home runs in about 68 at-bats, hitting above a 300. You do like to see that. And for Miami, this has been a top 8 team in terms of bullpen ERA since the beginning of the month of June. Lots of guys being able to step up for the team. Cade Gibson, Tyler Phillips, Lake Bakar, Anthony Bender, Ronnie Enriquez have all been able to give you a sub 335 ERA. So do think that the Marlins being a little bit undervalued here. I did set my total at 7.9. So here at the 8, I like the under and the Miami Marlins with plus money on the money line. And we wrap things up with 9.29, 9.30 on the card. The Chicago Cubs are on the road against the LA Angels. The Professor, Kyle Hendricks, hopes to not get schooled by his old team, and Jameson Taillon is on the bump for the Cubs. Cubs do find themselves anywhere between minus 133 to minus 144 favorites. Plus 118 to a plus 124 is that number on Los Angeles. 9.5 is the total. Over is minus 115, under is minus 105, and I did make my total 9.1. I'm going to be in on the under. Now for Jameson Taillon, he's been pitching to a little bit more contact than what you'd like, but looked very impressive in his first start off the injury list. He hadn't pitched on a big league mound in darn near 2 months. Prior to going up against the Milwaukee Brewers, he gave up 1 run in 6 innings, so did a nice job holding it down there. For Taillon overall this season, he has given up 2 home runs per 9 innings. He's actually given up more home runs than he has walks, with 1.9 walks allowed per 9 innings. Goes up against an LA Angels team that's been very all or nothing. The Angels, top 5 team in terms of home runs on a per at-bat basis, a bottom 6 team in terms of home on base percentage. So something has to give there. You got Taylor Ward, who's been absolutely mashing the ball this year, 29 home runs. He's up to about a 320 on base. Stolen Chuno, about a 355 on base. He has been solid. Same with Zach Neto, about a 265 average. He's been able to supply 22 stolen bases, 21 home runs. But Joe Adell, even though he sets fire to the rain with his 28 home runs, he's also setting fire to his 233 batting average. Logan O'Hoppe, very happy about the 18 home runs, not so happy about the 268 on base. Even Mike Trout, 372 on base is solid, and he's got 20 home runs, but hitting for just a 239 as well. So that's been a little bit of a miss for the Angels. This has just been an absolutely dreadfully bad bullpen this year. Kenley Jansen, Brock and Rolberg have both been able to give you sub 335 ERA, but then have a lot of guys above a 4. Sam Bachman, Carson Fulmer, Reed Detmers, Ryan Zephyrian, Jose Fermin. Man, it has not been great there. And for the Chicago Cubs, recognize that ever since they're really hot like May and June, the bullpen has regressed a little bit, and they did get rid of Chris Flexen, which I don't necessarily agree with, but that said, you still have a lot of guys that will be able to supply a sub-240 ERA in this bullpen. Caleb Thielbar, Daniel Palencia, Drew Pomeranz, Brad Keller. These guys have all been solid, and then they pick up Taylor Rogers at the trade deadline, and for the Cubs, this has actually been a surprisingly cold offense since the All-Star break. They've been a bottom 5 team in terms of runs per game. I do think that they're going to find it sooner rather than later. Pico Armstrong already has a home run in this series. He and Seiya Suzuki both giving you 27 plus home runs. Suzuki has had a little bit of a fall off with his average. Did not have his manager fight for him on Friday when he was the victim of some bad calls, but that's a discussion for another podcast on another day. You've got Kyle Tucker giving you about a 370 on base with 19 home runs. Dansby Swanson, 18 bombs, hitting about a 250. You've had Carson Kelly move the line with about a 350 on base. Michael Busch, 340 on base, 24 home runs, and I do think that they're going to get to a guy in Kyle Hendricks who's been a little bit better when he has been at home rather than on the road, but I think that the familiarity factor is not going to be helping him out whatsoever, and as we know with the professor, he has not been getting a lot of swings and misses. 6.1 strikeouts per 9 innings. For Kyle Hendricks, does a nice job, but not really hurting himself. Less than 2.5 walks per 9 innings, but he's also giving up over 1.5 home runs per 9 innings. Been a little bit better at home, 5.43 road ERA compared to a 4.52 ERA at home, but he's still giving up about 1.3 to 1.4 home runs per 9 innings at home. So do you think that the Cubs find a way to be able to get the job done here? Set them at a minus 138, so like their money line, and on that 9.5 under, so I might tell it 9.1, and that'll wrap things up for the Sunday edition of the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN family of podcasts. If you do like hearing from this fine podcast, Baseball Betting Show, you're able to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you do have one of two ways we offer those in. First one is my Twitter/X sideline at @GUnit_81. Keep in mind, letters CM, maybe does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. And the other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. Big thanks once again to Jovan Alford of Total Sports Live, along with Fansided, for joining me in the last segment. Coming at you guys every single day throughout the baseball season, regular season, and postseason. So I'll be back with you once again tomorrow. Thank you.